Môre aan 7uur gaan die president probeer spog met wat hy die afgelope jaar reg gekry het en hy gaan ook die land probeer opgewonde maak oor sy regering se prioriteite vir 2022. Om dit lig te stel, dis twee enorme uitdagings daardie. Hier oorkant my sit Theo Venter, beleidsontleder en Khaya Sithole, politieke ontleder. Theo, die land is so moedeloos, dis beerdkrag, dis die ekonomie, dis die verbrokkeling van infrastruktuur, die Julie onluste. Weet die president hoe moedeloos Suid-Afrikaners is en is daar iets wat hy kan sê wat ons beter gaan laat voel?
Ja, jy het nie 'n sondag genoem in daai kort lysie van jou nie.
Die lys gaan aan.
Kyk, staatsrede is opeenvolgende toesprake. Hy het verlede jaar in sy staatsrede, en het is belangrik dat mense by verlede jaar begin, 3 of 4 goed aangespreek. Hy het vir ons gesê, Eskom gaan opgelos word. Hy het 'n klomp aankondigings gemaak rondom Eskom. Hy het die oplossing vir plaaslike owerheid aangekondig, naamlik die distriksontwikkelingsmodel wat nog moet plaasvind. En hy het 'n klomp beleggings genoem. Hy was veral opgewonde oor Prasa se vordering, so hy het 'n klomp goed gedoen verlede jaar. En hierdie jaar moet hy dus nou antwoord daarop. Hy moet sê, wat het alles gebeur? So ek dink die groot deel van wat ons van hom gaan hoor, gaan 'n terugvoering wees oor wat het gebeur, maar ek dink hy het so 3 of 4 belangrike goed wat hy moet sê. Hy moet sê, hoe gaan hy die besigheidsklimaat verbeter? Hy moet sê, wat gaan hy in die tussentyd doen oor korrupsie en misdaad, wat Zondo het alreeds vir hom gesê. Hy gaan moet antwoord oor wat in KwaZulu gebeur het. Dit is ook gesê, hy moet dit doen. En dan dink ek, gaan hy moet praat oor grondhervorming en alles wat daarmee saamgaan in die lig van die wysiging van die grondwet wat nie geslaag het nie, en wat is die regering se plan van hier af vorentoe?
So those are some of the failures, and we'll get to that, Khaya, but are there any successes that the president can refer to?
Yeah, it's very difficult to find any success stories, and I think at the crux of it is the simple reality that the president's fixation since 2018 has been to unite the ANC when the ANC refuses to be united. Now, whatever he then puts on the table has to be executed by foot soldiers that come from the ANC itself, and because so many of them that are embedded within the state architecture barely see eye to eye, some of them don't even see eye to eye with him, it simply means that whatever good intentions he may have had, he doesn't have the capacity to execute given how divided his cabinet is. And if he has forgotten just how bad it is, well, this week he released a report that put it just very clearly, because the report that says that part of the reason we had an unrest last year is because you've got an executive that has absolutely no idea how to talk to each other. They have absolutely no idea how to manage anything, and they must take full responsibility. Now, of course, in every other thing that the ANC cocks up in the country, we can probably work around it. If there's load shedding, you'll buy candles. The problem with July 2021 is that innocent human beings lost their lives based on the ANC's inability to govern properly and adequately. And that is the most terrible indictment of his leadership since 2018. And of course, having been part of the ANC, having been embedded in it for such a long time, he absolutely cannot disown the chaos and the paralysis in governance that is presided over. So he definitely doesn't have very good stories to tell. It would be remarkable if he pulls a rabbit out of the hat and says there's something good to be told about the state of the nation.
Op daai punt oor die Julie onluste, daar's 'n fantastiese spotprent in die Business Day, Theo. Hoe behoort die president, of hoe dink jy gaan hy oor hierdie kwessie praat môre aand?
In die eerste plek het ek gedink, dit was 'n strategiese fout om daai verslag nou vry te stel. Hy kon gewag het tot volgende week. Waarom het hy dit gedoen voor die staatsrede? Miskien het hy 'n rede gehad, maar ek dink hy gaan baie spesifiek moet aandui, en ek dink die rede daarvoor is die verslag boonbehalwe wat Khaya nou gesê het, dat dit eintlik 'n mislukking van 'n regering op 'n sekere manier was, is daar duidelike aansporing en veranderings wat by die polisie moet plaasvind. Hulle het nie die werk gedoen wat regter Valum gesê het hulle al moes doen na Marikana nie, en daar is duidelike leierskapsverandering wat in die polisie moet plaasvind. Ek glo nie hy sal die staatsrede gebruik om Khaya Sithole te fire nie, maar dit moet nou baie naby wees. En ek dink ook die hele idee dat daar 'n kruitvat in KwaZulu-Natal en Gauteng en baie ander plekke, Noordwes, Limpopo, mense wat in ekstreme armoede woon, dis onder andere 'n gevolg van COVID, en hierdie moet deur die regering aangespreek word. En ek dink dit gaan hy gebruik om te sê hy gaan hierdie R350 'n maand wat tydens COVID betaal is, miskien vir nog 'n jaar verleng.
Do you agree with that? I mean, there's a lot of pressure on the president.
Yeah,
to introduce
at the minimum, it will be extended for a year. Now, the big problem, of course, is that we now know that this 350 rand has made a significant difference in the lives of people who were excluded from the social grants net. So we know that the social grants net has got coverage at the lower end if you're younger, up until a particular age. And then there's a gap that lasts until you turn 65 and you reach pensionable age. Now, these are the people that are supposed to be part of the economy. These are the people that should be able to go and look for a job. And when they've got absolutely zero in their bank account, even their capacity to look for whatever little opportunities existed quite simply wasn't there. So of course, over the past couple of years, now that we've been able to distribute it to them, it simply means that they're at least able to say, let me go and type a CV if that's what I need to do in order to be able to just try and participate. Now, of course, the idea that it could be cut off immediately without any new support mechanisms is quite simply politically unpalatable. And remember, from tomorrow onwards, the president has got exactly one fixation, and that fixation is to emerge on top of the ANC's ballot on the 18th of December 2022, if of course he is contested. So he's definitely not going to have the appetite to do anything that may then create further divides within the ANC, because the obvious and inevitable question would be to say, wait, hold on. The conditions that led to us putting this grant in the first place are still there. People are still unemployed. People are still suffering the effects of COVID. So what is the basis for you withdrawing it? So the appetite to withdraw it is not going to be there. The problem, of course, is that exactly 14 days later, there's the new and perhaps even more important question: how are you going to fund whatever it is that you promise us tomorrow? And that is where the deals need to be made.
Nog 'n voorspelling Theo is hierdie kwessie van job reservation. Jy weet dat Suid-Afrikaners voorkeur moet geniet wanneer werkgewers aanstellings maak. Gaan hy 'n paar maklike politieke punte daar aanstel as hy nuwe aankondigings daar maak?
Hy gaan dit ook moet aanspreek, want xenofobie is 'n probleem en dit word op verskillende vlakke gehanteer en ten minste 3 politieke partye lyk vir my flirteer nou met dit op een of ander manier. Action SA, die EFF en die Patriotic Alliance. So dit is 'n vraagstuk wat gehanteer moet word. Ek dink in terme van die tradisie van Ramaphosa gaan hy eerder 'n aanspraak maak op Suid-Afrikaners om mede-Afrikane eerder beter te hanteer as op 'n slegte manier. Ek weet nie of hy, want werksreservering vat ons terug na voor 94 toe. En Khaya het nou sopas die woord gebruik, unpalatable. Dit gaan nie lekker smaak nie. So ek dink nie hy gaan dit doen nie.
Khaya, the leader...
I mean, the greater problem with South Africa is that, of course, the ANC has failed to manage the borders and failed to manage the migration issues in the country. So everything else that you're seeing now is as a direct consequence of it failing to execute on what it ought to have dealt with. Because, of course, if we had a very clear understanding what the country's migration policies are and what happens when people are here illegally, how the law enforcement system ought to work, then you wouldn't see these 3 parties that have just been mentioned being able to capitalize on the fact that the ANC government doesn't know how to manage the people that are within the country. So, of course, even this idea of, well, maybe we should preserve the jobs and reserve the jobs for South Africans, well, that would be a wonderful idea if there were any jobs to begin with. So even if you make it the law tomorrow, that doesn't mean that a South African who doesn't have a job today is going to have a job tomorrow, because until you start creating the jobs, it's quite irrelevant what type of rules that you put in place. So this is him being reactive. This is the ANC being reactive out of a sense of desperation. And of course, you can understand why, if Action SA could garner those votes in the local government elections on a message that simply said that we've got a problem, the ANC can no longer pretend that we do not have a problem. Unfortunately, they were instrumental in creating it.
Theo, as die president nou fantastiese aankondigings maak, nuwe projekte, die herbou en die herstelprogram net verder vat, het ons 'n bekwame staat of 'n staat wat daartoe in staat is om hierdie projekte deur te voer?
Nee, ongelukkig nie. En 'n mens moet dit sê, daar's sekere dele van die staatsmasjinerie wat redelik funksioneer, maar daar's dele wat glad nie meer goed funksioneer nie. En in verlede jaar se staatsrede het hy 'n vreeslike het hy 'n groot gewag gemaak van die feit dat die staatsondernemings besig is om te misluk. Wel, daardie mislukking het verder gegaan. En dit is nie gestuit nie. In die geval van Eskom is dit miskien nou geherstruktureer, maar nie gestuit nie. En ongelukkig, as ons kyk na Fikile en Balula, wat die hele kwessie van bestuurslisensies nie behoorlik kan bestuur nie, en die soort van goed. Ek dink hy gaan fokus op projekte waar die privaat sektor 'n groot rol gespeel het. Soos byvoorbeeld, hy was 'n dag of 3 gelede in Mojaji's Kloof, die ou Duiwels Kloof, om 'n pad te open. En ek dink hy gaan op daardie projekte, groot infrastruktuurprojekte, gaan hy 'n bietjie fokus. Maar ek weet nie of daar ander goed is wat hy werklik waar kan aanbied as groot suksesse nie.
Theo, Khaya, baie dankie.